Hey everyone, this is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we are going to reflect on the last days of Uranus in Taurus. Uranus will be entering the sign of Gemini coming up here toward the end of June and beginning of July. It reaches the final degrees of Taurus and then changes signs. This is really the end of an era dating back to May of 2018 when Uranus made its first ingress into the sign of Taurus. So we're going to reflect today on the last 7 years of Uranus and Taurus. I'm going to give you some prompts to reflect with, and I'm going to remind you of which house and which topics have been active in your life based on your rising sign. Of course, you could listen to these little horoscopes for your sun sign as well. But we'll do that today as a way of starting to reflect on the insights and lessons learned while Uranus has been in Taurus and putting a bow on that era as we prepare for Uranus's entrance into Gemini. I think this is also appropriate because the Sun and Uranus will be conjoining over the weekend. We're going to be talking about that more tomorrow and Friday prior to the weekend when that transit comes through. So that is our goal for today. Before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe. Share your comments, your reflections. It really does help our channel to grow. We want you to consider this a place for your daily spiritual practice if astrology plays that role in your life. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on my website, which is nightlightastrology.com. When you are over there, tomorrow night, I am giving a webinar on Jupiter in Cancer. We're going to look at this from the ancient Hellenistic standpoint of Jupiter's exaltation in Cancer. Go to the events page, click on live talks. You'll see my webinar there. You can register for it. Jupiter exalted in Cancer, entering the sanctuary of the goddess. We're actually going to talk at length about why Jupiter is exalted in Cancer and what this has to do with things like matriarchs and goddesses and the wisdom of the goddess that Jupiter in Cancer so deeply represents. If you can't make it live to that talk, when you register, you will receive a link to watch the recording, the replay on your own time. So we always do that for everything. All of our classes, all of our programs are recorded if you can't make them live. We are also in enrollment season for my first year course, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. Go to the courses page, click on first year course. It starts June 22nd. At the end of today's talk, there is an informational video tagged on so that you can learn everything there is to know about the program. I take you over to the course website, show you how everything is arranged, tell you all that the program includes. Again, it begins June 22nd. At the bottom of the page, you will find the early bird rates. Don't forget, those early bird rates are only good through Friday. So you have just a couple more days to take advantage of the early bird sale for the class. And if you are someone who needs a little bit of help to make the program happen, please do check out the tuition assistance, which is there for people who need a little help to make the cost of the program more feasible. We know that people are hurting and in different places financially, so we take it seriously to try to make sure that a sacred topic like astrology is accessible. And so you can pick within a sliding scale if you need a little help. No shame in it. Just if you need it, please do use it. That is it for promotions. And again, at the end today, if you want to learn more about the first year program, you can check out the informational video at the end. Okay, well, on that note, let's take a look at the real-time clock. Let me put it up on the screen so that you can see it. Here we go. So today is Wednesday, May 14th. And as you're listening to this, the sun is coming to within that 3-degree engagement range with Uranus. Now, Thursday and Friday, we're going to be talking more about the couple of transits that are coming through the weekend. You'll notice that the two planets conjoin on Sunday, May 18th. And their conjunction is very powerful because it is also happening while Mercury is squaring Mars over the weekend. So the Mercury-Mars square and the Sun-Uranus conjunction, we will be talking about Thursday and Friday, next 2 days. So there'll be coverage of that coming up. But what I wanted to do today is to reflect on the fact that we now have Uranus in the final degrees, of Taurus. So I'm going to take out everything that you're looking at in the wheel right now, except for Uranus. And I want to show you what's happening as we go forward here. We come into the beginning of July and we'll see that Uranus is going to change signs into Gemini on July 7th. That change of signs will be the first time that Uranus has been out of Taurus for basically 7 years. Uranus spends about 7 years in each sign. That means that we are, in a sense, starting to receive, integrate, finalize the lessons, the insights, the experiences that Uranus and Taurus has brought over the past 7 years. I want to take you back and show you the full lifespan of this transit from Uranus and Taurus. And then I'm going to give you some prompts to reflect on right now, because it's a good time to start reflecting on all of what we've learned and experienced while Uranus has been in the sign. I'm going to go through the whole sign house positions to give you some reminders as well. When we look backward, well, actually, let me do this first. Uranus will go into Gemini, and it will retrograde over the summer. And then it comes back, and this is summer in Northern Hemisphere, obviously. And it comes back into Taurus right about here. This is November 7th into the 8th. So from early July through early November, we get our first taste of Uranus in Gemini. Now, the retrograde of Uranus into Taurus will take place from early November, and we're going to see Uranus station at the 27th degree. So this 27th degree that Uranus is entering right now, we're not going backward any further into the sign of Taurus through the retrograde. So these last 3 degrees really are the culminating degrees of the transit of Uranus and Taurus. So we see that by mid-February, Uranus is turning direct and will then move forward and comes back into Gemini by late April. So, we get November to about April with the final transit of Uranus and Taurus. What about 5-6 months? So we are looking at the very last of the last lessons and experiences of Uranus and Taurus right now. And anytime the ingress happens, a shift of focus is going to happen into a new whole sign house. We'll be taking a long look at that prior to Uranus entering Gemini on the channel later. But like once we get here into 2026, Uranus is retrograde in Gemini. We'll take it all the way down to the 1st degree, but it turns direct. So then it is no longer retrograding into Taurus. So I think this makes the transit that is happening right now, moving into that 27th degree, where it will not retreat any further back when it comes back through retrograde, significant. It's like, we should be thinking about this as the final moments. Now, there are, I think, some final reflections that could be meaningful here. Let's go all the way back in time to when Uranus first entered Taurus. And I want you to make note of all of this, because this really is the timeline within which the reflection prompts I'm going to give you would be applicable. So Uranus enters Taurus in May of 2018. Now, very similar to what's going to happen for us this summer, you'll see that Uranus will retrograde out of Taurus back into Aries by November. So we get, this kind of little introduction to Uranus and Taurus in 2018. Uranus will station and turn direct in Aries, and then it comes back into Taurus to stay by March of 2019. At that point in time, then we're now in the Uranus and Taurus era to stay. And so if we take that forward to 2025, from 2018 to 25, you got about 7 years. Consider the starting point when Uranus enters Taurus to stay in 2019, and take it forward to the final exit that we're going to see from Uranus and Taurus in 2026. Again, you got about 7 years. So whether you measure it, like 18 to 25, 18 to 26, either way, we're in the appropriate range for these reflections to be applicable. Here are the reflections I suggest you take into consideration. Now we think about the revolutionary impulse of Uranus. Uranus is a change maker, but it likes to do so by disrupting habits and established norms, structures, rules, behaviors, perceptions, paradigms. It likes to shake them up by introducing new ideas, new inspiration. It likes to shake things up through a need for greater freedom or exploration or creative release of pent-up energy that has to dismantle habit structures and systems in order to express itself. Uranus can shock or disturb the status quo through sometimes violent shakeups that are truly disruptive and kind of chaotic, at least temporarily, but then often lead to greater freedom or less inhibitions, fewer inhibitions, or the embodiment of a more creative or pioneering spirit somehow. Uranus is also a planet that seeks the new and likes to go forward away from the known or the past. Uranus, in this sense, is very progressive and innovative, but sometimes will also bring up the shadows of such impulses, time-tested wisdom, established habits and behaviors that lead to peace, success, stability. Uranus doesn't always appreciate those things and will sometimes press the button of revolution or progress at the stake of at the cost, I should say, of peace or stability. So and sometimes Uranus is a little bit like the mad scientist, or like the story of Frankenstein, where there's almost like a karmic cost for trying to progress too much, or trying to go beyond limits that are simply a part of being a mortal or human or worldly. The ambition to become godlike is very Promethean, Prometheus being a figure often associated with Uranus. So in any of these reflections, we might think about the revolutionary impulse or spirit, and also maybe the shadow of that same revolutionary impulse or spirit. So within the sign of Taurus, we're looking at the exaltation of the moon and the domicile of Venus. This makes Taurus a sign that has so much to do with the embodied sensual experience of life. In the Indian philosophical tradition that is married to Vedic astrology or Jyotish, there are 4 philosophical areas in life that all humans participate in. One of them is called Artha, and as I understand the etymology of the word, it has to do with the means by which we arrive at a desirable end, like the tools we use or the things we need to use in order to reach a desired outcome that is pleasurable or preferable. In the material sense, this word is related to the pursuit of material wealth, but even more basically, like material ease and stability and security. And then moving up from that basic platform of material stability and safety and security comes the desire for pleasure or comfort or ease or enjoyment, materially speaking, as well as maybe even going up even higher to things like power and influence within the material world to govern or dictate resources or something like that, which there's probably a lot more shadows the further up you go in terms of the ambitions that exist in this realm of Artha, which we might broadly define as the world of material comfort, ease, stability, enjoyment, security, etc. Taurus points to a lot of these, all of the earth signs do, in fact, but Taurus in particular has such an investment in the combination of pleasure, security, health, enjoyment, simplicity, ease. So while Uranus has been in Taurus, one truly unique revolution that I've observed in my own life and in the lives of many clients and students is that things can get radically simpler and easier. By that, I mean materially, your experience materially. What have you brought into your life over the past 7 years that has given you more comfort, ease, stability, a sense of security? I like to think of like Taurus sometimes, because I'm a Taurus rising, so this is pretty easy for me to see in the way it works in my life anyway. My wife's a double Taurus and everything like that. So it's like a wave pattern, Venus likes harmony and creating a life that has a certain kind of rhythm and smoothness and ease and enjoyment and comfort, all deep concerns of the sign of Taurus, you could say, through its hosting from Venus and the moon. And so a truly unique Uranian signature of revolution in the sign of Taurus is the greater ease, simplicity that the pairing of Uranus and Taurus can bring. So reflect on that. How has that shown up in your life? Maybe sometimes it shows up simply by exposing us to everything, everyone, every factor that is really preventing us from how radical and revolutionary, simpler, easier, more stable patterns or existence in the material world is. Number two, how have things become more stable and comfortable, materially speaking? So simpler and easier could be like, have you learned how to exist in ways that are, like a flow that you've created, an ability to flow through life like the moon and Venus? Have you revolutionized your life in terms of the smoothness that you experience psychologically, spiritually, energetically, materially? But another thing is, how have you improved upon your sense of stability and comfort? Like, is your life more stable because of changes that you've made? Or is it, maybe it's an ongoing work in progress and Uranus has just been really pointing you toward the need for a more stable, secure, simple, easy, comfortable existence? One of the things that Uranus and Taurus has brought up for me in the first house, which I've shared pretty openly on this channel, is just how important it is to have an easy, stable, comfortable relationship with my own physical existence. I was always someone who was very intellectual, very spiritual, but not necessarily the most embodied person. Uranus entered my first house in the last 7 years, has been a real journey of looking at a level of almost like ignorance or ignoring of my physical reality. So the transit for me has coincided with a prioritization of mental, emotional, spiritual health through physical habits and rhythms like clean food, like exercise, weightlifting, cardio. And of course, my spiritual practices are still here too. Things like silence, prayer, meditation, astrology. I still read, so it's not like any of the other stuff went anywhere, but there's been a real emphasis for me on stabilizing the mind and the spirit and the emotional body through more of a prioritization of what is physical. Radical embodiment, let's call it that. Radically more stable and comfortable. Number 3 on my list here is a revolution in pleasure and sensuality. Honoring the fact that life is meant to be enjoyed. I think it's really interesting that in this Vedic philosophy, this yoga philosophy, you have the ultimate goal of enlightenment, but you also have an avatar of the divine in Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita telling Arjuna that you can't skip past being human, living a life that's filled with different conflicts and dualities, a life that includes the body. You can't skip past that. I think that's really important because in Vedic philosophy, the realm of artha, the realm of kama, pleasure psychologically, pleasure emotionally in connection with other souls, pleasure materially, eating food that satisfies the senses. Skipping these things does not help us evolve. Saying just sort of outright that food or comfort or joy or pleasure in this material reality is simply false and all nothing but a distraction or an illusion is itself a kind of ignorance. It reflects a kind of impatience and an unwillingness to allow the substance of the material world to be a guide and teacher as much as anything else. Uranus and Taurus has really, I think, asked many of us to consider how revolutionary it is spiritually to allow ourselves, as Mary Oliver said in the poem Wild Geese that I read recently, to simply love what we love, to let the soft animal of our bodies, just exist. That's frankly quite a revolution for many of us, especially many of us who think that we have to constantly control all instincts, all physical or material impulses. Everything is dangerous, from our own, spending habits to our choices on a menu when we go out. Everything is dangerous. Everything is not to be trusted. Maybe the revolution of Uranus and Taurus for some of us has been, you can trust in the desire body, in the pleasure body. You can trust in the intelligence of how your values, and by values I mean your likes, your dislikes, your attractions, guide you. You can actually trust it. What a revolution that may have been for some of us over the past 7 years. But think about that, a revolution in your pleasure body. Number 4, a shift in style, taste, or appearance. As a Venus-ruled sign, Taurus loves beautiful things. I always think about my wife, who's like double Taurus, and we can't go to a garden store without coming home with a trunk full of stuff. It's like she sees a beautiful plant, she wants to put it in the garden. She's not like someone who's into like super expensive designer clothes. It's all plants. Like a beautiful garden statue of a goddess or something like that. But it's funny because that sort of cliche or stereotype about Tauruses, that they like beautiful things. What a liberating thing, though, it can be to allow our sense of style, taste, pleasure, or even our appearance, our fashion to change. And to be happier with how we look because we're choosing new colors. Or, I remember when Uranus entered Taurus, you guys may remember this from quite a while back. I was just getting my YouTube channel started, and I decided to paint my first office bright blue. And I was like, it felt so, for me at the time, it felt so daring. I look at it now and I go, that's silly, who cares? But for me, it was like sort of audacious to choose a super specific, like bright color. And then I got into this office, and the adventure continued with my purple. But simple things like that are a big deal. And honestly, I think women may know this sometimes more than men, just as I reflect on my experience and experience with other men that I'm friends with, where you can really underestimate how powerful it is to pick specific colors when you dress. Ashley took me to this workshop where this woman was helping us understand our sort of like an elemental profile test that we took. And then based on what element we were aligned with in the testing, there was a color palette in clothing that would sort of do different things. Like, this one's good for feeling energized. This color for you is good for feeling more peaceful, or this one is good for feeling more sensual, or whatever. I was so blown away by how accurate it felt to me when I tried on different clothes with different colors based on how my profile went. And I still use that, even though you probably wouldn't notice because my color choices are probably not that daring or sparkly. A shift in style, taste, or appearance can be profoundly revolutionary. I also reflect on the fact that, those of you who've been around my channel for a while know that over the past 4 years, especially while Uranus was moving through a square to my ascendant ruler, Venus, and going over my ascendant, that my physical body changed quite a bit through, mostly through getting really serious about my bodybuilding hobby. So don't underestimate what changes have you experienced in your style, your taste, or even your appearance, your wardrobe. Massive. So finally, number 5 is a shift with respect to material circumstances. Things like money and income, and or how we spend, or what kinds of, have we gotten more simple? I think of what was the woman's name? Marie Kondo. I think that's her name, Marie Kondo. She had this almost like a minimalist approach to cleaning and organizing that became really popular years ago. And my wife, Taurus, in the spring of 2018, this was, I wasn't consciously aware of this connection at the time because it was so new to have Uranus and Taurus, but I hired someone who had trained with her to come over to our house and help Ashley with a couple rooms in the house. And in hindsight, I've always been like, well, there was Uranus and Taurus entering the scene. Let's shift the aesthetic and the pleasurable experience of your physical environment by greatly minimizing things. And I think it's profound because sometimes you might think to yourself, well, Taurus is all about adding things, but more basically, Taurus is about pleasure and comfort and ease. And don't underestimate the power of the word simplicity when it comes to Taurus. Simple things. Have you ever seen a Taurus enjoy their cup of coffee? Yeah, not until you see me in the morning. I mean, it's ridiculous how much simple pleasure I derive from my daily basic physical habits. And I've always been that way. As a Taurus rising. So all you Tauruses out there, I know you know what I mean. Cancers can be a little bit similar too. But anyway, you have some good earth in your chart, maybe the same way. Who doesn't like their creature comforts? But I think the point is that how you relate to material things, whether it's more of them or less of them, is not as important as the shift in how you relate to things. Things have a spirit. Things, in the Marie Kondo method, you take everything and you go, does this spark joy? And if you're like, no, then it's in the giveaway or the donate pile. So that you eventually have only things around you that really spark joy, that speak something to you, because the presence of things that don't spark joy or have no connection to what brings you joy, happiness, or pleasure are thought of as, not very helpful to have around. So that it's not just minimalism for minimalism's sake. It's also about surrounding yourself with things that bring pleasure. Anyway, I'm using Marie Kondo as an example, but you get the idea. How has the relationship with materiality, with material circumstances, surroundings, or even things like money, how you spend it, what you have, what you buy, what you invest in, time, energy, money, and resources, how has your relationship with those things shifted? So those to me are the things to watch for. Let's flip open the chart and I'm going to give you like a lightning round set of reminders based on the whole sign house placement. So this is going to be really brief. We're just going through to say this topic if you're this sign rising. You could listen to this for your sun sign just like you do any horoscope, but I recommend your rising sign because it will correspond with the whole sign house version of your birth chart, which we Hellenistic astrologers use as our main house system. So if you're an Aries rising, this is in the house of money, finances, and resources. Consider how that has looked and been changed over the past 7 years. If you're a Taurus, this has been about identity, health, body, and personhood. Boy, I've felt that one. Gemini, it's in the 12th house. What is the unconscious dimension of life related to things like materiality, comfort, sensuality, pleasure? In what way have you been looking at your relationship with the materiality as it exists in your blind spot or an unconscious spot? If you go to Cancer, it's in the 11th house, the place of friends, groups, communities, allies. How has your relationship with greater communities or professional networks changed and been transformed during these 7 years? If you are a Leo, we're thinking of this in your career house, or what connects you to the public sphere, the civic and social dimensions of life, or again, the professional sphere or work environment. So what has the revolution looked like there for you, Leos? If you're a Virgo, we're looking at this in the house of beliefs, education, religion, spirituality, travel abroad. What has the revolution looked like with respect to your philosophical or spiritual outlook or the process of learning? For Libras, we're looking at this in the 8th house, a place of soul contracts, of interdependency, of kind of different kinds of karmic debts, obligations that we have to others and that they have to us. Also, the process as a moksha house of relinquishing attachments. For the past 7 years for Scorpios, the house of marriage and relationships has been of great focus. how has your life changed over the past 7 years with respect to the realm of intimate relationships, intimacy, pleasure, connection, maybe things like marriage or how you do relationships or who you've been in relationships with, or what's been happening in the life of a partner even. For Sagittarians in the 6th house, we're talking about radically different approaches to work and everyday duties and activities. We're also talking about creative processes that have involved a lot of work, labor, and sacrifice. We're talking about transformations with respect to health and the body that you have had to deal with and work through. With Capricorns, we are looking at the 5th house of creativity, children, pregnancy. This has been a tremendously creative transit for Capricorns, relating to things like creative fulfillment, pleasure, happiness with other beings, pregnancy, procreation. In a sense, it's like, what am I creating? How does it contribute to an ongoing evolution of my sense of who I am? For Aquarians, we're looking at this in the 4th house: home, family, roots, living environment, parental or ancestral karma. What has the revolution looked like around the domestic side of life, the private or interior sphere, home, family, living environment? For Pisces, we are looking at this in the 3rd house, a place related to mind and learning, thoughts, intelligence, communication, skill development, a place associated with siblings as well, and a place that is also related to the development of your own independent, unique thinking, communicating skills, abilities. It's a house that is really about individuation through what we learn and how we apply what we learn skillfully in the world. And also, again, peers, siblings in this house, the immediate environment around us, how has it changed as we have changed? So these are a brief series of reminders that you can also apply as you are thinking about how things have gotten radically simpler or easier, more stable or comfortable, a revolution in peace, pleasure, sensuality, style, taste, or appearance, or any kinds of major shakeups of material circumstances. And look, although I really presented the light side of Uranus and Taurus, I'm not ignorant, and I'm very aware of the fact that some of you may not have a lot of positives to take away from the Uranus and Taurus experience. Every chart is different. The planets being activated by this transit look a little different for every person. And I know that sometimes these shakeups feel more destabilizing and chaotic than constructive. But I urge you to reflect anyway on your takeaways. An attitude of gratitude, like, like if you really do look for the learning, not and try to be honest about it. You don't have to make something up and just to say, if you can't find anything, fine. But approaching an astrological reflection with an eye for gratitude, you will find something most of the time. The more you sit with a planet culminating and reflect on what you've learned before it moves signs, in my experience, the more you start to see these dazzling little jewels all around you that have come through somehow. Maybe they've come through some destabilization. Maybe they've come through a little bit of material chaos rather than, all of these peaceful sounding revolutionary qualities I'm describing. But whatever the case may be, just use this today to reflect and say thank you if you can. If you can find that sincerely, then I think it's a good thing to do. And if you can't, then say, my advice is, if you can't find anything to really feel grateful for that you've learned or taken away from this period, then ask for the ability or insight to see something in time. When it's the right time, please help me understand what I may have learned during this period. I can't see it right now. I'm feeling a little stuck, or it feels a little hard for me to reflect on this right now, but help me to see it whenever I'm ready. That prayer, these kinds of prayers are very powerful and very effective. If we stay, even if we have difficult experiences with planets, but we stay honest about that and sincere in our desire to learn, even if it doesn't feel like right now it makes sense, in time, good things come. That's been my personal experience at any rate. Okay. After I sign off, you can learn more about the upcoming Year 1 program. Come study with us. Astrology is an absolutely amazing thing to study in depth, in community. over a long period of time. We have 4 years worth of professional curriculum that's also meant for people who are simply spiritual seekers who are trying to cultivate the language of astrology as a major focus in their spiritual life. So if that's you, come study with us. You will, if you like this channel, if you like my work, absolutely the best work that I think I've created as an astrologer come through my programs. So I hope that you'll come check it out. You'll hear more about it next, and we will see all of you again tomorrow. Bye, everyone. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around. I'm excited to tell you about our upcoming program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. It is our first-year course in Hellenistic astrology that begins at the end of June. June 22nd is our starting date. I'm going to take you over to the course page to tell you more about the program and what you will learn while you are in it. So here we go over to the Nightlight Astrology website. You can find this at nightlightastrology.com. Click on the courses tab, go to the first year course. Now this program is ideal for people who maybe have a little bit of background already in astrology. Maybe you've done some studying on your own independently, taken some courses or webinars and workshops, but you're looking to deepen your understanding of astrology. And maybe Hellenistic astrology in particular has been calling to you. I'll tell you more about what Hellenistic astrology is in a minute, but on the first year course page, you're going to find everything that the course includes. I want to make the structure of the course clear first. And then at the end, I'm going to tell you 5 reasons that I think anyone might have for studying astrology. And you can see if you check any of those boxes. First of all, there are 30 classes on the year. It's just a little under a year-long program with 30 webinars. Every webinar is 2 to 3 hours long, including a lively Q&A and conversational section after we finished our lesson for the day. Each of those lessons I lead personally through live webinars, so you can attend those live. If you want to follow along at your own pace in your own time on your own schedule, you can always look at the recordings and take those in. And I'm going to show you what the class page looks like so you can see how you can interact with the course as uniquely and creatively as you want to. But you can either attend the live webinars or listen to the recordings or audio or video. In between major units of study within those 30 classes, we have separate classes outside of the 30 classes that are essentially tutoring sessions led by our staff, our course directors. We have 3 of them for our first year program, 3 tutors that help me guide every single class you're in and lead study sessions, and are also staffing an interactive group forum discussion where you can ask questions, look at charts, practice what you're learning with all of your classmates and with tutors there to help you. They'll always answer questions within a business day. So it's a really well-staffed, well-structured program. In between those major units of study and the breakout sessions, we also have guest speakers that come in throughout the year that you get free access to. The recordings are archived for you in your class folders. So you're getting people within our curriculum. You're also getting to visit with some astrologers who are outside of the Nightlight School, but we really admire their work, and so we bring them in. You also have a ton of bonus material. With every lesson, we have recommended quizzes, study guides, optional reading. And that allows people who are really, really, intense, deep, like studious types to go as far as you want to with the material, while other people who are maybe, content to take things in at, just kind of taking in the classes, that's there for you too. So you can kind of go as deeply as you want to. The class, if as the year goes on, goes through major units of study in ancient Hellenistic astrology. So if you're not familiar with ancient Hellenistic astrology, this is the earliest form of horoscopic astrology. This is where the astrology that you've probably learned today comes from originally. And that makes some of its features unique. Like, for example, ancient astrologers utilized whole sign houses. We study why they used whole sign houses, how they used them, and we study the why behind really everything: houses, signs, planets, aspects, dignities, essential and accidental dignities, delineation approaches. How do you read and predict within a natal chart? All of those theoretical areas of astrology, we not only learn how to do, but we learn the why behind it. And this is what I think people find most empowering about the course, is that ancient astrology really helps to give you the rationale for everything so that you have the insight available to go off script. What I mean by that is, like, let's say you're learning about a sign, Aries or Taurus or a Gemini, something like that. Ancient astrology won't just give you a list of the adjectives or keywords or descriptions of, say, a sign or a planet. It will give you an underlying philosophical explanation that then allows you to extrapolate from it the kinds of lists that you read in textbooks, which means you'll have an understanding of why everything on a list in a textbook is there in the first place. And you'll also have the insight and creativity available to add things to the list that are a part of your own unique intuition and contribution to astrology. And this is what ancient astrologers wanted students of astrology to learn, the why behind everything. So this is a class where even though you're seeing things like planet signs, houses, dignities, aspects, and you're like, oh, I've already learned about those things. Not if you haven't studied Hellenistic astrology. I don't mean to sound condescending, but like truly, most people's experience coming through this program is, wow, I had no idea all that I didn't know about the roots of everything that I've understood thus far about astrology. So it really is about digging into the philosophical core of why we do everything. And then you have greater intuitive and creative capacity as an astrological craftsman or craftswoman. So anyway, that's a brief explanation of why I think Hellenistic astrology is important. Not to mention that ancient astrology was really focused on our ability to accurately describe and predict things in the realm of karma, fate, and destiny, whereas modern astrology's hallmark and strength is psychological depth. And so when you put the two together in our program, which is why it's called Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, I think you have something really special. So on that note, you can see everything that we cover here. So there's a video with some of our alumni you can watch. Everything is there on the page. Now, there are 5 reasons that I want to touch on briefly before I tell you about your payment options and need-based tuition. These are 5 reasons to study astrology that if you mark any of these boxes, especially if you mark several of them, then I think it's a good indication that you might be ideal for this program, might be an ideal fit. So the first one is if you find that astrology has become a part of your daily, weekly, monthly, yearly spiritual practice, it is a part of how you lead an inner life, then there is nothing more empowering than deepening your connection to that language, because that puts you more in the driver's seat. It's always good to have astrologers that you rely on, teachers that you listen to, get a little objective perspective, especially when you're looking at your own chart through a reading. But there's really nothing more empowering than learning to speak the language at a deeper level for yourself. And if that calls to you, if you want to understand things and be able to speak more confidently and clearly about this sacred language that you love, and this is a great reason to take a structured program. Number 2 is that you feel called to read charts for people. And look, not everyone who takes our programs is on a professional track, but we have 4 years worth of professional training programs at Nightlight that will prepare you to read professionally for others if that's the path that you're on. Maybe you don't even know if you're on that path. That's fine too. Many people take our programs just for the sake of their own personal enrichment. And again, to be kind of more in the driver's seat with respect to your astrological journey. You have more of an understanding. You can be more confident in reading symbols and experiencing transits with your own understanding that you've cultivated. But sometimes people want to read for other people. This will definitely set you up to do that. We have a certification track where you can take exams at the end of every year. They're optional. You don't have to if you're not on that level of interest. Number 3, you have done a lot of self-study. You've heard things from here and there, but you're looking to bring it all together. It is overwhelming to study astrology on your own. So if you want organization, structure, and coherence, what you're getting in this program is going on 15 years of training astrologers, 15 years of developing curriculum that has in mind the overwhelm that many people experience. And this program is structured year 1, year 2, year 3, however far you want to go with our curriculum, to give you an organized, structured, coherent way of understanding the history and language of astrology from both ancient times to modern times in all of the vastness that the field includes. And also, as we go, we want to give you the confidence that you are a part now of an astrological lineage. Astrology has always been practitioner-based. Coming through Nightlight, you are going to have the opportunity to feel aligned with a lineage. If you like my work, if you feel aligned with the way I speak the language, then this might be a good reason to come study with us. Now, if you're seeking the why behind things, if you're like, yeah, that's interesting, I get it, I understand, but why? Why signs? What's the difference between a sign and a house? Why do they ever come up with a sign and a house? What's the distinction philosophically? Why does Mars represent this? Why does Mars in this sign represent that? If you are someone who feels empowered by understanding the why behind things, you are going to love this program, because that's how I am as a teacher. That's how I am as a person. And that's what this program is really all about. Number 5, you are looking for astrological community. Look, I think Nightlight is unique in terms of the kind of warmth, acceptance, safety, and inclusiveness that our community includes intellectually, spiritually. We are really pride ourselves on being a peaceful kind of family. I'm a Cancer, right? So it's kind of a family-oriented environment. So anyway, I will end it there. If you check any of those boxes, you may want to consider studying with us. Now, I'm going to take you over to 2 things. I want to show you the dashboard. So here is the Thinkific page. You're going to join this. And on your dashboard, you're going to find any courses that you've enrolled in at Nightlight. And there are many, so you may end up in being involved in multiple courses. And you'll find that they're all there on your dashboard. Click on one of them, and it will take you in. You're going to find that on the left-hand side, there's orientation instructions, course information, class links, and calendar, all the technical stuff you need to know when you join the course. And then you're going to find that there's, when you go through the lessons, that the lesson includes the video, the audio, the slides, the transcripts, the Q&A box text if you couldn't make it live and see what people were talking about, flashcards, homework, a bonus PDF with all sorts of additional recommended reading, bonus videos, additional video links for bonus material. So every single time that you want to visit something within the course, everything is nicely organized. So you can see here, I'm going to pause this before it starts going, but you can embed the video right there. It's embedded and you can watch it. And then if you wanted to, you could also, right here, you could also download the video and watch it on your own device. And that's same for the audio as well. And then as you go, you'll see all of the lessons are laid out. The study sessions are also recorded if you can't make those live. So everything is nicely arranged on the website for you. And that makes it a course that if you wanted to take 3 years to accomplish, you could take 3 years to accomplish. If you want to take it for the sake of getting certified, you have the full year plus an additional year to take the exam. So, 2 years total that we give people if you're on a professional track. But most people complete the program in a year. And a lot of people, over 50% of our students, go on to our year 2 and then our year 3 and horary programs as well. Now, final thing I'm going to show you is right here. You're going to find, here is the enrollment options at the bottom of the first year course page. Again, this is at nightlightastrology.com, and you're going to click on the first year course, go to the bottom. The early bird payment saves you several $100s off the cost of the course. That's available till May 15th. Early bird installment plan saves you on the installment plan, regular cost of the course. That's also only available until May 15th. And then need-based tuition. All of our programs include a need-based option where we give you a sliding scale and we say, you pick your monthly tuition number within this sliding scale, which is greatly reduced off the normal tuition price. That is for people who are on a fixed or limited income, receiving disabilities, single mom, whatever the case might be. We want to make sure that nobody's priced out of studying astrology. So you don't have to feel any shame. If that is you, if you need help, if you want to take this, but you need to make it work within a tight budget, we get it. Times are tough right now. We don't think people should be priced out of studying a sacred subject like astrology. So we've been offering need-based pricing for 15 years. Nightlight is a donation-based school. It started that way. We have a sliding scale, so it's kind of like donation. You get to choose your rate anyhow. So if that's something that will help you, please use it. Thank you for listening to this. I hope it gave you a really deep and comprehensive introduction to what the course is all about and why you might find it exciting to come study with us starting at the end of June. So any questions you have about the program as you're visiting the course, email us, info@nightlightastrology.com. We'll be glad to talk about anything that you have questions about. We are here and we have a wonderful staff of people at Nightlight who will be a part of your learning experience and are all glad to help you. All right, that's it. We'll see you again later. Bye.